Hello, thank you for attending. Thank you for inviting me as a guest lecturer here. And this time we'll do it in English for our English guests. My name is Roie Shavit. I'm a BI solution expert, 14 years in the BI field. Sorry. Yeah, this went too far now. Everything appears. So I'm working at a project company. It's called BIyond. It looks like BIyond, but it's an I. It's BIyond. And as I said, I'm 14 years experience front and back end in BI. And in several industries, I did consulting, technical lead, startups, more major companies. And this time we're going to talk about AWS, more of the networking, the implementation, and the security of issues. Let's say my love story with AWS started just a year and a half ago, and the possibility that you can do everything by a click without the need to have an IT or servers you need to set up and stuff like this. This is something that I think broke many limits that were before for startups, for single persons, to try and play around and to see how things work in the background. So in the past year, I certified for the solution architect and the developer on AWS. I learned a lot. And of course, it took me to places in my company as well, doing end-to-end solutions, including IT, everything on cloud for the startups, for the companies. And today I brought you a use case from one of the companies we were working with, such an implementation, end-to-end BI data warehouse solution. You got the number and the email address from my CEO below. Feel free to contact if you have any issues. You can contact me as well. I'm going to give you later on my LinkedIn address, and I think the slide as well, the recordings will appear on the website. Okay, so the use case was when first the client approached us was, listen, we need to, I don't know why it always stops. We need to implement, set up and implement a data warehouse end-to-end solution. It was a healthcare company, a startup, which had a great product, but they had no insights, they had no knowledge. Okay, how many are using it? What are users doing on it? What is more interest to them? What is less interest to them? So they had some sources on Google Analytics, and they had Intercom, and they had their own products on MySQL, on a VPC as well. VPC, I guess, the ones who don't know, Virtual Private Network on AWS. And they asked us to, okay, we need BI. We need for people to do some analysis and check things, see really what people, how many users are using the product, what is the retention of users, all this stuff they didn't have the answers for until we came. So, of course, we had some things subject to PII and PHI. PII, personal information. PHI is personal health information. GDPR compliant. GDPR is the new General Data Processing Regulation, the European regulation, which started, I think it was on May, 2 months ago, and the fines are big. The fines, I think, at a minimum are about $20 million if there are some breaches or someone is not compliant for any of the users located in the European Union, or the processor is located in the European Union. So we had to be compliant. Of course, the solution needs to be scalable, daily refreshes, implement a classic BI methodology. And of course, they want to maybe pair it in their existing VPC. easy to maintain, self-service, and of course keep everything at a low cost. We want everything for nothing. We said, okay, no problem, let's go for it. The solution we presented to them was, okay, of course we're going to use AWS as our, I don't know why this happens. Okay, of course we're going to use AWS as our IT service, infrastructure service. You can argue why is AWS better than GCP, Google Cloud. I actually don't have the answers. I'm not saying it's better. I'm more familiar with AWS. I think they have more services you can implement. Not saying that GCP is bad. I think they're the same, more or less. But again, we have experience with AWS, so this is the reason why we went to AWS. The first solution we went is have an account as part of an organization, but independent. I guess Omid is going to detail later on it. I think it's part of his agenda, so I'm not going to enter deep on it, but you can have like your own AWS account, which is built by the organization, but you have full administrative control. You can do whatever you like. And this, of course, for us is the best solution, because we don't have to ask people, can you give me access to here and that? I can provision servers by my own and stuff like this. By the way, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, no problem. So, of course, can be peered, fully GDPR ready. The data warehouse we provided is actually a Postgres instance. Why Postgres? Because at the time, they didn't have big data. When we're talking about big data is actually volume of data, I think 20 teras and above. They had a few hundred gigs, so I'm saying, listen, for now, we're going to keep it a transactional database, not an analytics database like Redshift. And this is the reason why we choose Postgres over MySQL. First thing, Postgres has the same drivers as Redshift. So we haven't implemented as well APIs and stuff like this. We wrote on Python for Postgres, and you can use the same APIs to run on Redshift as well. Second thing, it has more features than MySQL. I, for myself, prefer Postgres over MySQL. Maybe some of you may argue with me. It's okay. As I'm saying, this is the solution we provided to them. I'm not saying this is the best solution, but it really answered all their needs and the subjects. And of course, we're thinking everything that needs encryption. We have data at rest encryption. So once you provision a data warehouse, it doesn't really matter which one. If it's an RDS of Postgres, Aurora, or MySQL, or if it's a Redshift, you can, once you create a database, you can say, okay, keep data at rest encrypted. This can only happen once you provision the server itself, the data warehouse. After that, you cannot adjust the data warehouse, but you can, if you like, create snapshots of this data warehouse, and the snapshots can be encrypted. Again, I think Omid will detail on this later on.
No, actually, I was saying, good one. It's a note I missed in my lecture.
Okay, okay. So I'm glad I could help. And we chose as our ETL provider. Again, I'm from BI, so my world is BI, creating BI solutions. So I have experience both as an ETL developer and as well a front-end reporting developer. The solution we provided is a third-party cloud data processor called Xplenty. Israeli guys that sit here in Tel Aviv, brilliant guys. They created an ETL solution over the cloud as well. You can work with them over AWS or over Google Cloud. They do all the source-to-target solution in a very graphical user interface, something that has been missing, in my opinion, both on AWS and Google Cloud as well. And they do it in a, frankly, very good way. In my opinion, again, I have very good experience with them. They support API requests, so everything I can do with them, it doesn't need to be on their application. I can just run requests through Python, Java, whatever, and say start this job, end this job, upload this, provision this cluster, close this cluster, and so on. Of course, they have encryption on transit. Sorry, yes?
Sorry, was this chosen before Glue or after Glue was already?
This was chosen before Glue. I learned about Glue several months ago. Actually, I think Glue is not there yet. They have many customers. They're in the field, I think, several years now. And they're doing a very good job. It's very easy to work with them. One of the things, the reason why we chose them, because when we give over a project, we need other people to take over certain fields. It doesn't need to be a one-man job, but certain fields. And as an ETL developer, especially when you come from big companies, you are more familiar with on-premise ETL tools like Informatica or like DataStage and stuff like this, which are very, very graphical. And the need for coding there is minimum. So this is something similar, where an ETL developer can come in and start just, dragging and dropping, source to target, doing filters, transformation, whatever. This is very similar, and this is actually one of the reasons why we chose them. Reporting, Tableau. You can argue why Tableau. Tableau is today actually a market leader. You may say it's a little bit old-fashioned. The new online analytic tools which exist, we can Domo and we have Burst and we have many, many more. They look neater, they look nicer sometimes, but Tableau has one thing that others don't have. It has an on-premise application, solution. Not all, of course. There are some who have this solution. And second thing is, again, one of the reasons we chose Tableau, because it's widespread. It's, as I said, a market leader, and you can find anything everywhere on the net, every solution. It is so wide, so users and forums, you have answers there. So this is why one of the reasons we chose Tableau over another tool which is less known. And the second reason, licensing. Today, many users or many providers on cloud or on premise as well, just throwing, like I thought, Looker as something new that came in, their initial costs are very, very high. And on Tableau, you pay only on licensing. Now they have a new new program for license on Tableau. I think it starts with $70 a month billed annually as a developer, where you get the desktop version, $35, I think, as a creator, they call it, and $12 as a user, as a viewer. The ones who cannot create their own reports. But still, it is very low, because if we're looking at a total annual, it's at developing stage. I don't need more than 2-3 licenses. And this is something I couldn't have at the beginning from all the other providers. All other providers start with you several thousands monthly. And of course, you remember the first slide, I was saying keep cost low. We want it for free, actually. They're paying us enough. They're saying, you find the answer. I say, okay. So this is the reason why we chose Tableau. Again, we started with Tableau Online, and the planned production is Tableau on-premise. Licensing is nearly the same. Okay, so the next slide is, this is a solution. Any questions so far? Anyone? Okay, so this is actually the network slide. By the way, again, I don't know what he has. It's not my clicker, it's something on my computer. So, so this is the infrastructure. This is their organizational VPC. Of course, at starters, we were starting to develop on their development environment. MySQL, I wasn't adding here any other connectors, but you have to think that there are additional connectors, on-cloud connectors, like Google Analytics, like Salesforce, which connect. Xplenty, as I said, is our data processor, ETL a processor, which connects to different to those providers, and of course to the client's organizational VPC. And I added, by the way, the next slide is going to show you what are the terms, what everything is actually here on the slide. But just to let you know, this is the new VPC, the new private, the virtual private. Now I forgot it. VPC, virtual private cloud. Thank you, thank you. Yeah. So everything here, I'm going to show it in the next slide. So once you click create a new account, create a new VPC, you get everything out of the blue. You don't even have to know about those because they are provisioned automatically.
Sorry, this is a new account under the same organization?
This is a new account under the same organization. You remember when I said at the start, it's built by the organization, but it's a new account, totally new, has nothing to do with this account, only that they're paying.
You could do the same with the same account, right?
I could do the same with the same account, but because it's a budget thing. So they say, listen, we have a budget and we want to keep everything in budget and of course separate from other budgets. So this is the reason we are not the only account under their organization. They have plenty more projects, plenty more stuff. So for each new project they open it, okay, go ahead, open a new account, provision what you need, keep it low. So in terms of creating your own account under a username or organization, you have nearly the same permissions. In the account, you can, once an organization creates accounts and creates child accounts, they can define what are the permissions of those child accounts. So for example, in this account, I don't have access to the billing section because it's not, again, it's not my piece of bread to share. So I have everything else. I have full administrational access on all the technical stuff on the new VPC. It's almost the same.
A question. Did you create only one new VPC or one for different tiers?
No, I created one new VPC. My job was only to create first the data warehouse, which is this Postgres SQL. Tableau, we were using Tableau online. So this is outside the VPC. And create Xplenty. It's not creating an Xplenty. I had an account in Xplenty, create an account on Xplenty, which connects both to the other providers, to their VPC, because there we have the development environment, and of course to my VPC. Now, one thing we're gonna, in the next slide, I'm gonna detail a little bit of those components. We have to detail what is a public subnet, and this is the next slide here.
Sorry, but
sorry.
Okay, but didn't you have a reason to split to tiers? Like, do you have fraud information here? And if someone develops, sometimes you want to split the data that the production data wouldn't be accessible. Since
this is a new VPC that didn't have something like production for BI, so when we started the project, we only needed one because the development will later then become production. Once it becomes production, you create a new VPC or it can be on the same account, in the same account, a new VPC, or even in the same VPC, a different subnet. Okay, I have detailed here the components, what everything says. So again, once you create your own account on AWS and you click provision a new RDS, you don't even know that things behind the scenes are you having automatically a new internet gateway. Internet gateway is the gateway between the internet and your VPC. Simple as this. You have a routing table. The routing table is also provisioned automatically once you get your VPC. A main routing table actually says where to route the traffic from to. This is what the routing table says. Everything here you can control the routing for the subnet. You can connect one subnet to a routing, but a route table can have several subnets. And of course, access control list, security group. I'm going to detail about the access control list and the security groups as well. Access control list is each subnet has only one access control list, and like it says, it controls who has access. But the access control list is a global access list per subnet. So I can say who are the IPs which have access to this subnet as a whole. Thing is, it is stateless. Stateless means that once I define inbound traffic, it doesn't mean that on the same IP there will be outbound traffic. I have to define both. This is something on the ACL. Automatically, when you create a VPC, the ACL will be open for public access. Once you create your VPC, by the way, or the instances, you have a checkbox that asks you, do you want this instance or this subnet to be publicly accessed or privately accessed? So once you click public, it opens the internet. So the ACL is an access control list for a subnet or one or more subnets.
It's like the opposite way a firewall works. Like when you create an access list in a firewall, it doesn't let you in, and here you have to block traffic once you create.
Once I create this, again, if I said public, so everything is open. The access control is public to the world, actually. And what defines here, the difference between the access control list and the security group, a security group you can define per instance. When I say instance, every machine I provision, database, a Linux server, a Windows server, it doesn't really matter. But I have to, when I define a security group, a security group is stateful, meaning that once I define an IP which can access, assuming that the IP has access through the ACL as well, it goes both ways. It's inbound and outbound traffic. And why are security groups easy to handle? Because I can define several, in this very same subnet, in the very same public subnet, I can define servers. It doesn't really matter, again, which servers I provision to a certain security group, and other servers to other security groups which have different permissions. And this is actually nice. I prefer working with security groups because it's easier. It's easier to manage. The access control list, as you mentioned, is like a firewall, a hardcore per subnet. So even if I have here something open and it's blocked here, it won't work. The access control list comes before the subnet. And the difference, again, which I talked, public subnet and private subnet. Public subnets are open to the world. Private subnets are, of course, don't have internet access, they have internal access. There's much more to it. I won't detail it further. Omid will take care of this, I guess. And all right. So this is the transition. Again, if you remember, by the way, everything is being recorded. You have access later on. Omid will, in the next few days, will upload the data, the recordings, and the slides themselves.
Will be there.
There will be there. No, don't worry about it. As I mentioned at the first, when you go first to the when we remember what was our intention to have everything on premise, but there was a transition saying we still want to access our prod now, server. Now explained you had to go to the private subnet. How do you go to a private subnet? With a Bastion server or Bastion host, which is actually it says it's special purpose server instance that is designed to be the primary access point from the internet and acts as a proxy to your other EC2 instances. This is something I copied from AWS itself. But again, it serves like a gateway, again, a proxy. So they opened this Bastion server saying only Xplenty has access through all these components only to this server. No one else. It mainly prevents you from attacks. This is something that a Bastion server does. So this is their production, still with our public subnet on Tableau. People, of course, can access Tableau online. It's a cloud provider. And the final production was to implement everything. We were thinking first to peer those VPCs. You can peer them together. I don't know why he always jumps 2 slides. The first thing we were thinking about is peering those 2 accounts, but we said, what for? If I would peer, I would have to have a Bastion server as well, and just peering, it's more of a headache. We're saying, listen, copy the snapshot of the data warehouse, share it with the account. It doesn't really matter which account. Share it with the account. Then you can provision a new database in the private subnet of the organization with the snapshot. So the data sits here, and you just pull a new EC2 instance to install the Tableau on-premise solution. And this is, in this case, everything in-house. The only thing we, of course, need to preserve, because we chose a cloud provider as a data processor, is to have the Bastion server accessing through the cloud. By the way, if we were to choose glue, of course, I wouldn't need all the solution. Everything would be in-house. But we have to keep in mind that it doesn't show here. We still have cloud providers. So in any case, I would need access outside. Salesforce, Intercom, Google Analytics, and so on. Okay, guys, those were my 15 minutes. Thank you very much.